What's going on, everyone? Miller here. This is a first. We're doing a live stream right away. And the reasoning for it, Adobe updated and I can't get anything to render out of my videos. So a couple days of frustration, 3 broken coffee mugs later, I decided to do a live stream. I'll just share my screen and be here with you guys to answer any questions. We're also going to do an unboxing. Originally, this was going to be a 2-parter. I was going to do vinyl thoughts for you, unbox a couple of the albums that I got from the band Orphans of Doom, and then roll into the interview on the next day. But things happen, and you guys deserve content. Technical difficulties aside, whatever. No excuse. I'm going to make it happen. We're going to let this roll for tomorrow, and then we'll be back Friday. Give me a couple days to learn a whole new video editing software and be ready to roll for Friday with no hiccups. So let's get to it. This is an interview that I had with Orphans of Doom. Now, this is an older interview. As you can see, this was actually pre-move. The footage I thought was going to be lost. During the move, there was some hard drive failures and issues. I finally was able to contact someone that recovered the data for me, but was only able to grab the lower resolution file of it and just the one file, no separate audio, no nothing. So I apologize for the quality of it, but it was a good interview, and I wanted to get it seen. I wanted you guys to see it. These guys are really cool. The band is awesome. It will unbox here, and I'll kind of chat about them in the same while I'm doing it. If I can get this box open. I never get these things, never get them right. I should have pre-opened this. I got 2 albums. The one that one of these should be is their second album, which is Orphans of Doom 2. And that was out a couple years ago at this point. And a killer album. It's like if you like Mastodon, Motorhead, Sabbath, any of those bands, Clutch, Scissor Fight, you're gonna love these guys. It's great, doomy, thrashy at moments. Oh, I got a bunch of stuff in here. This is the cover of this thing, and I love the artwork. And that's originally what kind of drew me to this, was the artwork. And Brian Sadeh, one of the guitarists, is the designer of the artwork here. I love his art. Oh, wow. This is a cool pressing, too. Check that out. That's awesome. Get this back in here. Originally, the band formed as a 3-piece and then added Justin Mantooth was their producer. They kind of talked him into doing bass, pulling double duty on that. And he's a fantastic bass player and a good producer. Love the mix of the album. It's very open and airy, which I really dig. Originally, like the snare was like, man, that thing is really pingy. And then when he described the way they recorded, in particular the room they recorded in, it all made sense then, which you'll see in the interview. Now, this is a compilation they did with some other bands on the record label that they're on, which is the Company KC. Now, they're based out of Kansas City. And, oh man, why do I suck at opening these damn things. I'm going to have to like man bear pick it. There's like 0 people in the world that have a problem opening these, especially because it's like perforated. Only me. Oh, right. That's cool. Protect Sean. Keep it from bending. A bunch of stickers and stuff. They sent a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, look at that. This is a compilation tribute to Motorhead. Now, this features a bunch of bands that are on the label, like I said, with them. And this was supposed to be a special pressing, too. Let's take a look real quick, because I want to get to the interview. Oh, yeah. Man, they got some nice stuff coming out of there. That's a cool pressing. Some of the cooler pressings I have, period. And they're a good price, to be honest with you. Shipping wasn't too bad from what I remember. So Company KC, check them out, Orphans of Doom. And if there's any level issues or any of that stuff, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and take care of it. This is the first time I'm using this new board too as well, so for a live stream, that is. Let me know. I'll be with you guys here, and man, I hope you enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed interviewing these guys. For you, in case you missed it, with Orphans of Doom. So how you guys doing, man? Thanks for joining all the whole band. This is the first time a whole band.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So we'll go through and just tell the Thrallers who you are, what you do in the band, because you know, not a lot of them know what's going on with you guys, and they need to, because this album, the newest album, rips, man. It really does.
Thanks.
It's perfect for it, what I'm into anyway. That doomy, sludgy, you know, just put it on and just zone to it, man, on repeat.
I appreciate that, man. Well, I'll start. I'm Brian today. I'm guitars. That's it.
I'm Jeremy Isaacson. I sing and play guitars.
I'm Greg Coling. I'm the drummer.
That's it.
I beat things with sticks, and I run samples as well. I got a little pad that sits next to me, run samples.
Justin Mantooth. I play bass and I produce.
Nice. So you do everything at your home, or do you have a separate space for it? Or?
I run a professional recording studio here in Kansas City called West
nice.
End.
Okay. So the label that you guys are on, the Company KC, then do they use? What's the Company KC? Is that something that you guys are involved in creating? Because it looks like it's all Kansas City, Iowa stuff. A few guys from New York were in there.
Right. No, that's a buddy of ours label. But yeah, he frequently releases things that I work on, for sure.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, that started. The company started with, honestly, I went to school with the guy who founded it and runs it, and he was always just for design. We went to school for design together, and he was always doing album covers, and just totally like every project was like a Melvin's project or something. You know, he was always finding ways to twist it into kind of the heavy stuff, and it was no surprise that he kind of stayed in the kind of music genre of design and illustration and stuff. And so yeah, and he wanted to put out a record by a band called Keith Mountain, which were friends of his, and he just said, hey, I'll put it out, we'll just try it. And then it's blossomed into, I think he's got maybe 16 releases now, so he's definitely I would say a tastemaker in Kansas City with the heavy stuff. There's a lot of bands that either want on the label or are always checking out what he's putting out next. And there's Druids from Iowa is on the label, who's amazing. But then he's also got Sam Nuri's put out maybe 1 or 2 releases with the company. Justin, is that right?
Right. Correct. I think they did a split with Godmaker, and Sam Nuri and Godmaker are both Brooklyn bands that I am buddies with. I used to live out there, so I've worked with both of them. And yeah, Josh has put some stuff out through that connection.
That's kind of cool, because there's not a whole hell of a lot of Kansas metal bands. I mean, was Origin was Kansas, weren't they? They're from Missouri. Yeah.
They're from Kansas.
Yeah. Topeka, right?
Right. Correct.
Yeah. Taking away 2020 and all this stuff. Before then, how hard is it to get like a good metal show going on? Or is there a scene there? Because it doesn't seem like there's a lot. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands. Kansas City's always been kind of a sleeper rock town. There's a lot of creative people. Bands like Shiner and Season the Risk all came out, are all Kansas City bands. But as far as like metal, we have bands like Hyborian, us, bands like Discreet. Help me out, guys. What else we got? A lot of heavy bands, not necessarily like metal, but heavy. Like Young Bull.
Go ahead.
What's the Sasquatch band?
Oh,
Troglodyte.
Troglodyte.
Yeah. They're semi-national.
Yeah, they're amazing.
It's very fast.
You guys are forgetting Puddle of Mud. I can't believe you're forgetting Puddle of Mud.
Brian, fuck.
Yeah.
Damn it, man.
Yeah.
At least Tech 9 plays with metal bands.
Right.
I had to. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Nope, you didn't really, but that's okay.
Nice Wayne's World poster, man. That's excellent.
That's actually an original movie poster. A friend of mine got that for me as a housewarming gift.
Oh, that's like the perfect housewarming gift.
Oh yeah, he brought that over. I was like, hey, somebody could bring me a $5,000 grill, and this still would be better.
Yeah, dude. What is it? My friends too. Like when I moved into a place, they got me a original Crow, a huge poster.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, they always do that too. Give me a movie poster for housewarming. It's like plaster my walls with shit.
I don't know. It's our generation, I think.
Yeah, good generation. That's what it is.
Yeah. Taste.
So how'd you guys all come together? How did this band form?
Jeremy?
Well, we had a friend of ours, a mutual friend, that used to play in a band with Greg and Brian back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And me and Brian kind of met later on, I want to say the 2000 teens, through this mutual friend. And we could kind of like, nod at each other, like, who's this guy? Back and forth. We didn't really know each other that well. And then we realized that we were both really into the same kind of stuff musically. So we started kind of messing around with stuff and decided to start a band. So got Greg involved.
And I wasn't even really playing at that stage. I was just, I was a bass player at that point in life. And then the more we started talking and getting our influences together, Jeremy was like, you should probably switch to guitar. And then it's just kind of morphed from there. So it was definitely like something we didn't go, hey, let's do this. It was some kind of circumstances that kind of brought us together. And then we sat on it for a while, and then we invited Greg in, and then our good friend Justin over here was like, we think we should play bass for us. And then fortunately he agreed to do it. So now we're a 4-piece for the first time in our 5 years of existence.
Nice. So the 5, that's a little recent. It was just 3 of you for a while.
Yep.
Yeah. The first record and the first few years, it was just a trio. And it was
okay. So Strange Worlds was just 3 of you at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we did the second record, and Justin has been a part of the process with the recording and kind of producing those records, and then eventually it seemed like a natural fit to ask him to join. So we're lucky to have him, because it's a lot more fun with 2 guitars. It's always heavier with 2 guitars. Yeah,
it fills out the sound. There's not too many guitars that can fill out a sound, even on a record. I mean, they did a pretty good job at the studio with Van Halen and how he bounced everything with that plate reverb and stuff. That was pretty ingenious then, but it's really hard. Yeah. I'm doing a band now, and they got 1 guitarist, and I'm like, that's the first question I had. Okay, recording wise, do you guys want to stick to the 1 guitarist tone, or do you want me to just fill it out how it needs to be, regardless of what I need to do? That's usually the first thing I ask.
Yeah.
Either you're going to be a purist at the recording, or you take it as, this is a recording. This is what I want exactly the song to sound like. If I could have every resource available live, this is what I would want. And then you work around that. Trent Reznor's been very good at doing that. So over the years, but the thing about your guys' sound is it's so raw, and it's just the instruments and the aggression and everything put together, and the riffs, it all works really well. The vocals, everything blends really well, because there's a lot of bands that in this genre that I like, even like Acid Mammoth. I dig those guys, but the vocalist isn't strong. But you guys have every piece to this doom sludgy rock thing down, and it was kind of like, I don't know, breath of fresh air or whatever you want to call it, but it was like rejuvenating that need for that type of music, going
Thanks.
from what I've been listening to.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we actually started as an instrumental band for our first little EP, and then we just kind of forced Jeremy here to try some vocals. So he's actually, the stuff that we've got on record, he's a brand new vocalist. It was just like we sensed a need for some more rhythmic and storytelling stuff going on with what we were doing. So that's all. He's not I wouldn't call Jeremy, and this is not an insult, a seasoned singer by any stretch.
No. It was, this band has always been we really want to do X. Well, let's try some people out. And it always goes bad. And we're like, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. That's kind of always been our mark,
Yep.
What we do.
Yep.
The same way with bass players. We tried to be a 4-piece when we were an instrumental band. And it was very tough to find somebody who fit kind of what we were doing. And so we did a 3-piece for a long time just because of that, just couldn't find anybody. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of local or like unsigned bands that just, I think they take themselves really seriously, but they don't ultimately take the art form very seriously. And so there's a dedication issue or a I'm good enough issue with a lot of players. And then we would just encounter that when we'd have people come in and we'd just think like, you can't think that you've hit your peak. Like you're not there yet. Like we all need work. We all need to get in and try to kind of better ourselves on our instruments, but then also write better songs. And it seems like there's way more dudes out there that just don't have that understanding of, I think, the broader world around them and where they are in their scope of like as a player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen that too. It's like they want to have that stage and that, people looking at them or whatever, but they don't want to put the work in behind, the hours and hours of like, okay, does it sound better with the mic like this, or does it sound better with the mic like this? Do I need to put painter's tape on the drums, or do I need to put nothing, or moon gel, or just the endless hours of just painstaking practice and getting that craft down, and then taking that and excelling and moving in a direction that you wanted to move, whether that be progressing in some way or whether it's be sticking to your guns. Like we were talking about Cannibal Corpse. They are a band that is stuck to their guns the whole way. And that's why we love them. Everybody. I mean, they're like a cross genre band, as extreme as they are.
You can tell Jeremy's a fan because he's the one cheesing when just by you bringing up their name.
What'd you think of that album?
New album's great. I like it. I wish it was produced a little differently. I like the one before, the way that it was produced a little bit more, but I dig the songs a lot. I've been a fan of them since, before they did the Ace Ventura thing. So was that in the 90s?
Yeah. I started thinking about it. I was like, dude, don't do it. It just makes
Yeah, the new one's awesome though.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. Like, my buddy Shredlord on the channel, he said it's a guitarist wet dream, and that's exactly what it is. Just perfect riff structure and the way they move everything, and it flows very well. So Greg, hey man, you play drums. You're quiet.
Yeah, that's the way I am at practice a lot, especially when they playing with gear and stuff, which is fine.
Well, you get the I got to tune my guitar, and then that turns into 5 minutes of noodling.
Right.
So
well, to be fair, I do the same thing while they're trying to figure something out. I'm back there doing the John Bonham practicing while everybody's trying to play. So
yeah, I guess that. Yeah. Jam and John does that too. Like, dude, hold on, just let us figure this out real quick.
Right. I have to just kind of, okay, sorry.
I'm always like, hey, dude.
Well, I use an SPDSX now, and I've been adding new pads on and playing with different sounds on it. So I've noticed while they're doing that, I can kind of play with those pads while they're doing whatever they're doing without distracting. So
maybe I know what to get him for Christmas now. Get him to be a little more quiet. Although we use an electronic kit at this point, but
yeah.
So what kind of
practice on? I really like it.
So you're digging those samples in, which I mean that brings the dynamics alive. What I was talking about, tools to another level. If you can get a drummer that's good enough to get that down and in time, because I've seen some shows where it's just he'll miss and then what do we it's off time and everything's just fucked, from that point. So, yeah.
Well, we get really good about if Greg misses it, we fake it real fucking well.
That is important.
You're speaking on Tool there a second ago, Josh. That's what actually got me to start playing with that stuff was over when COVID started. You didn't have anything to do, so it's not like I was going out and hanging out with people. So I sat here and watched a bunch of videos, and I stumbled onto that video of him playing Danny playing Numa. That drum kit video is incredible. I bet of the millions of watches on there, I've probably got at least one or two of those million watches because I've watched it so many times. But watching him play on those pads, that's kind of what made me want to do something like not necessarily have a complete hybrid kit because that would just be ridiculous trying to set up and tear down. But have a trigger pad on there to be able to do something with, maybe change a sound or. It's one of those ones that's got the center you can hit or the edge. So I could use the edge as a trigger and the center as an instrument of some sort, a clave or whatever.
Oh, okay. From experience and working with a live kit and pads with dual triggers, I got to the point where I just made both triggers the same thing. After enough times of hitting it and getting, a movie clip instead of China or something, I was like, all right, I just buy more pads.
Yeah.
And I just run the pad in through the SPD-SX and it splits it off that way as long as you got it set right.
Oh, yeah, that unit's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I love it.
So Justin, in the studio then, when you guys are working together with these samples type things in the songs, because ultimately on the record it's got to be the same thing.
You mean as far as live versus studio?
Well, are you working together with Greg in developing some sounds that would work well with songs, since you are kind of the engineering side of it?
Usually since I just joined the band, they're bringing me stuff that they're working on. So usually it's like Brian is sending me files that they want that are, they want to sync up, and then I kind of manipulate them to better fit in and dirty them up. And then as far as live, Greg's always playing to a click. At practice, we are always on the click. So so we're able to get that stuff to sync up, and put it on the pad. And it's really nice to be able to do that. It's really nice to play the click all the time. Especially live when you want to rush, you're playing a riff by yourself for a minute and you want to rush. It's great that it's all synced up.
Totally.
Yeah. That's huge for the band. Not a lot of people can do that. You get in the studio, like, okay, what tempo do you want the metronome? They're like, we just play. I was like, all right, we're going to lay a scratch track and then you're going to play to the scratch track because we need something concrete.
Well, when we come up with and play the first riff, I try to figure out what tempo it's at, program that in there, and then adjust it from there once we get it done. I mean, there's sometimes we've slowed it down and then gone, well, this is way too slow. We should speed that up, and then speed it way up once we get the song done.
Yeah, creatively, I think it starts with also, when we're kind of roughing stuff out at home before it becomes a full song, I'll know whether something's not thick enough, like, okay, it's got two guitars, it's got two guitars and a bass and drums on it. It's great, but I feel like it needs more, I think, ambiance or something. So that's when we'll pull in like, I'll play like Mellotron or some sort of like old or, drawbar organ or something. And then we're kind of slaves to the tempo at that point because we're making a 20-second clip that's got to sync up with us. We can't just do it by memory. So that would sound like shit. So we always have to stay in tempo for those kind of things. We definitely do longer samples more so than we do like triggers or something like that. It's typically some sort of layer that kind of helps kind of propel a part or separate it from the part before or something.
Yeah, I'd fill everything out. It's that for people that aren't into producing, it's that ear candy you always hear about. It's just that it's in the background. It's a little bit here and there sprinkled in, but it makes a big difference if you don't. It's like recording drums. If you don't get a room behind things, it just makes a huge difference in the tone of everything. So so having the samples live, that's smart, and playing to a click is ultimately the best way for anyone getting started in music. If you can get down to a click and be comfortable with doing it all the time, do it, because it makes life a lot easier as a musician.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you guys to record? Because man, you guys were almost as bad as Skeleton Pit. They had their album released on March 20th, like 2 days after shit went to, the stock market hit the shit. So
yeah,
you guys were just a month before that. What were you guys like? Was that just like a what the fuck moment, or were you guys busy enough to kind of be like, we can manage?
I think
You're shaking your head. Like, that's probably exactly what you saw.
it was, we were excited for this record and we were trying to make a splash with it, a bigger splash than the last one. And it didn't happen. I mean, we had, things lined up with PR and interviews and things, and it's just a time when no one really gave a shit at the moment. And I think we were all just a little bit like, is everyone going to have their jobs in 3 months? Is everyone going to be able to feed themselves? And so it quickly changed from, we released it, and then before you know it, we've been in this piece of shit situation for,
Now you probably stay busy, with the art and stuff like that, I'd imagine. But like Jeremy, Greg, those guys.
I'm a software engineer, so I'm always busy. Right.
I own my own business, and it went nuts as soon as COVID hit, because I own a mobile service. I own a mobile dog grooming company, and my business went nuts. I was booked out 3 months within about a week. So it wasn't worried about my job necessarily. So
yeah. And I'm sure Justin, you were busy.
It actually happened really well for me. It kind of timed out where I had all this mixing, and I typically mix on my own. So I had all this mixing to do. So that helped. And then when I had downtime, I just dived into making guitars, and, overall it's been good, but it was a super bummer as far as shows and the record. Cause we got to this point, we were a well-oiled machine, and we were ready to go do some Weekend Warrior tours and play shows. And that was the whole thing. And then it all just fell apart and it sucked. But luckily, unlike a lot of friends I know and bands I know, we never stopped creating and writing and rehearsing for the most part. I mean, we were down for I don't know how long were we down. We missed
maybe a month, maybe 2 months. We kind of stayed away from each other for a while.
Yeah. But then, we masked up and we kept making songs and keep writing for the next record. So, I know a lot of people just kind of turned the knob all the way off and haven't got anything accomplished. But I feel like we're well on our way, to find the next thing that we're doing. It is a bummer though. I really wanted to support this record and play shows, and it's just unfortunate when we released it, but
yeah, it's just shit circumstance.
Yeah. Keep going though. So
yeah, slowly shows are opening up, places are opening up. I just saw, dude, I was almost going to fly down to New Orleans to see Crowbar play at the place down there. And if I could have got tickets to fly less than, $400, I was going to go, because I love New Orleans anyway. But slowly we're getting shows back, hopefully soon. They've released that next year. The Maryland Death Fest is happening for sure. So that was exciting news to come out about shows. So when have you guys thought about that at all, or started to getting back? No,
we've had a few opportunities thrown our way that we've kind of turned down just to play it safe. I think any shows that would have happened in the past few months would have been really. I'd say Kansas City is a little more hardcore in terms of making people mask up or shutting things down than the rest of Missouri. Missouri's pretty wide open, but I think anything that would have come our way would have been pretty probably not worth it. Justin, you're shaking your head. You have thoughts?
It would be a dismal. Nobody would be there, Yeah. So, and it's probably the safe thing to do for now. So.
We can't wait to do it again, though. It's really just, I think we're just waiting for the signs that, we don't have to reach out. People typically bug us for shows pretty regularly. So we know that it'll start when our usual haunts and venues that we prefer to go to start reaching out. We'll know that things are starting to look a little more normal. So in the meantime, we're just trying to write the next album And I'm trying to think of how to one up the artwork for album 2, and try to find a way to make it just as interesting and hopefully different enough that it stands out from the rest.
Yeah, because that when we were talking before it officially the interview started, that's what drew me to it. I was scrolling through, like I said, it's old school, like going through vinyls at a record store. Instead, you're scrolling through Discogs or Bandcamp or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the artwork. I was like, wow, that stands out. And then I saw the name, and then the name was like, yeah, I'm gonna love this. I know I am. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of people think that we're a doom band because just we have doom in the word, but we're we're adjacent, but not not typical in kind of the doom sense. We're actually named after a song off of the first Conan movie called Orphans of Doom. It was kind of just one of Jeremy and I's favorite pieces off of it, so we thought that was a cool way to name it. But we've gotten the doom question a lot. We've gotten or I think angry people online going, "This isn't doom," when they hear it.
Yeah, it's not, but it's like I think if you like doom, you're gonna like you guys. I don't see why you wouldn't, unless you're totally shut off in your mind from any new shit, But Emily, like you said, you're doom adjacent. I guess you like noise rock, but like it reminded me of like old stuff, like The Obsessed and stuff like that. Like I heard.
Oh, cool.
Like all these bands older bands I was listening to that in the sound, and that's what drew me to it. I was like, man, these are fucking good riffs. They're chuggy. They're like I said before, I'm a big fan of it. So
thanks.
Yeah, I don't know. People are just ridiculous.
Well, how many dudes do you know in the scene that are super one lane, like guys that say stuff like that's not metal a lot, or they have a very specific genre or understanding of what metal is, and they think that that's it, and anything that diverges or kind of plays with the boundaries of that is not pure. It just seems like this kind of the metal genre as a whole, I feel like there's a lot of acceptance of kind of these multi-genre, kind of genre bending bands, but there's also a lot of dudes that feel really threatened by stuff that isn't right in the if it's not thrash, it's not good, or if it's not death metal, that's, and I feel like that's a really closed-minded way to be. So it's good to hear people say, hey, like I have a broad spectrum of heavy, and a lot of things can fall in that category. Because your guys' reviews are typically much, much heavier than we are. So, we feel a little light, coming in with some of your influences and tastes, but it's good. It's good to be able to see people that have a diverse set of tastes.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I brought to the channel. I listen to more stoner rock, doom, stuff like that. I get into pretty crazy shit too, and my listening to music is just through the spectrum. Billy Joel, Elton John are big influences in like writing and stuff to me, as much as Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Cephalic Carnage, stuff like that. And everything in between, the Elvises, the Michael Jacksons, Gloria Estefan, Miami Sound Machine. That album was fucking produced awesome, and as a producer, I can appreciate that. But yeah, it's unfortunate when I see these guys where they're just, one track and that's it, because it really, and heavy is subjective, man. I mean, because Stevie Wonder puts down some grooves, or James Brown's puts down some grooves that are fucking heavy, man. They just hit. And it doesn't have to always be that huge chuggy, down-tuned A heavy, Yeah.
Yeah.
Can get heavy.
I was just listening to Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet, again, probably for the 8,000th time, but that's a heavy record, and it's kind of this chaotic mountain of samples in each song, but there's so much tension and aggression in it that I feel like that's as metal as some things that are really, deemed traditional metal, just because of that. I think the vibe and the feeling you get from listening to it is very similar to some sort of emotion or feeling I would get listening to, say, Obituary records or something like that. So it is subjective, but it's really sad for I think for people who feel very laned in that way. So I just hopefully guys like that or girls like that expand and see reason to kind of get out of their out of their lanes. And there's a lot of great music out there, and it doesn't all have to be heavy. You can take inspiration from just about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jeremy, your guitar playing and stuff, like, where do you draw that? What do you listen to? What got you into playing?
Oh, I'm actually I play a lot of flamenco guitar. I started off playing mostly like, when you're in your early teens. I played a lot of blues stuff. But then I found Metallica and Slayer when I was young, and pretty much just started playing that most of the time. So, I think weren't you singing James Brown and Me the other night, Greg?
Probably. It sounds like me.
Seems like, man, Greg, me and you need to get together, have a few beers, man.
I think it was actually more obscure than that. I think he was singing Fred Wesley and the New JBs, which is his backing band, a live record that they put out in the 90s. So it's like even more obscure. It's not just James Brown. It's like deep cut.
Maceo Parker live from Planet Groove. We started playing the what's the opening track on that album? It's not Past the Peas.
I'm horrible with song titles, as our viewers know. I'm horrible with names, horrible song
But I started
titles.
just playing some funk beat, and then Brian started playing the guitar part, and I think I started singing something over it, probably.
I don't know, man. Funk.
We're all over the place.
That's so awesome, though, because it really affects, you guys have fun together and stuff like that. It comes through in the music. It always does. Whether, the band's having turmoil and stuff, you could totally hear that in recordings. Yep. So, I thought you guys, when you record, because I wondered, the amps, they sound like Marshall or Soldano.
So we use a bunch of different amps, mostly Fryettes. Like I think Brian plays a couple Pit Bulls.
Oh wow!
I play a Soldano.
So I did hear a Soldano.
You do hear a Soldano.
Okay.
It gets used a lot.
The Hot Rod 100.
I think it's a Hot Rod 100. Yeah,
it is.
And we use it a lot because it's a great sounding amp.
Yeah, I use that on my. I got it, digitally, but that's usually a go-to for me. Is that amp or the Carvin? I like that Carvin amp too.
Yeah,
the Fryettes are newly renamed. It used to be VHT. If you're familiar with VHT amps.
Yep.
But that's the guy who created those. His name was Steve Fryette, and so he sold the name off to a company years and years ago, and then just started making them under his name Fryette. So Sumac plays all Fryette stuff, if you're familiar with them. So just love the sound of their. He plays all in the not the bridge, but the where's his pickup?
Bridge.
Sumac bridge. Yeah, so it's super bridgy sounding, but I really like the tone of Fryette's and VHTs, and always have. So that's why. That's really the only reason I have it. I couldn't tell you what the hell it does, how many watts it is, what's in it, and nothing.
Oh, that's okay. So, Greg,
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Jerm.
A big thing of ours is different speakers. I mean, the speakers make a huge difference in your tone,
absolutely.
Right? And so I think we spend a lot of time using different cabs and things like that. And I mean, hell, we've even got on some of our recordings. What's that little bitty practice amp you stuck on some of our stuff, Justin? Was it a little Princeton or?
I think it's the God, how am I? Yeah, it's a little Fender with a lot of spring burb on it. What the fuck? It's a Blues Junior.
Oh,
Blues Junior. So yeah,
it's good for like layers that just need to fit in there, lead parts that just really got to fit in the amongst a wall of stacked guitars, so it's really good for that kind of thing. Small tones make big tones.
Oh yeah, I use a Orange Crush 35.
Yep, I used to use one of those a lot.
Dude, that thing is just heavy. You get that off a little bit at a 45-degree angle, off center, and that thing sounds like like the Blackening Machine Head like tone SOD. I mean, it's heavy.
Yeah. especially when you're fitting in a lot of stuff. You can use a little tiny speaker and get it to work where a big one wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Definitely a secret.
Greg, what kind of drums do you use?
Practicing at the practice studio, and what we use while we're playing out is a Vista Light. It's smoke, 3-piece. Got a 14-inch tom, 16-inch floor tom, a steel snare.
Okay, bear with me. Technical difficulties. I should have audio now. I'm going to fix this right now. Let's see, we're at 3525. Again, Adobe, I hate you. I hate you so much. We're going to get this loaded back up, though. Hopefully quick. But yeah, these guys are super cool. And like I said, it's like a Mastodon, Black Sabbath, Motorhead is a lot in here. I hear Scissor Fight, Red Fang. There's just a lot of bands that I hear in these guys, and the production is really cool because it's not overly produced. It's got a little bit of that old school vibe to it, that old school feel. And let's go back to. All right, let's see. We should have her now. All right, I'll click back over. Let you guys finish this. Fingers crossed.
It was like up against this door right in front of the kit, but it was pretty far away. And there's some like breakdowns in the record where it's kind of just that mic.
I would imagine. Yeah, because that's probably a great room kind of sound to that, and yeah, the drums sound big. How much did you have many phasing issues with anything, or?
I do a lot of measuring, so okay. I'm keeping everything is equal distance to the snare as I can, and that's kind of my center point is the center of the snare. I do the same thing with overheads, and if I do have a problem, I'll tend to shift them around. I do a lot of kind of time shifting, room mics in general until I find the right spot if I need to. It just depends, depends on what we're going for. So I was going for the roomiest thing we could do on 2. And I think we found it, especially with those tempos, to be able to have roomy drum sounds at moderately fast tempos. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I think we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. You had just enough of that big kick that, because, I mean, Greg, you're not rolling like, Paul from Cannibal Corpse. So you have a little more room to bring out the bass and that 60, that 50, 40 kind of range and the kick, particularly like that 50, 60 range, that real punchy part. You got a lot of room to work with that, and the compression was perfect on it. It wasn't overdone, which I hear a lot. So yeah,
I try to get real sounds. I try to go for the most organic sounds I can for heavy music. I'm not as interested in triggered drums and triggered and fast stuff. It's cool. It's just not my production style. So I'm always trying to make it heavy and fast and in your face, but still like sounds like a real drum set, you know?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jeremy, what kind of guitars do you use? So I was kind of curious about that.
Me and Brian both use Donables. We're huge fans of Intronaut, and kind of through that liking of that band, kind of found the Donable guitars, which was is it the guitar player Brian that owns that company, Sashi?
Yeah.
Yep, Sasha.
Yeah.
And so that's mostly what we play now. Justin's supposed to be making us some new guitars, so we'll be playing some Man-Tooth guitars here soon.
He's too busy making iPhone holders, though.
Yeah.
But
Gotta fulfill these Etsy orders.
But yeah, we play mostly Donables. I think Brian will play. He's got a Gibson Les Paul that he'll pull out every once in a while. I have a GNL Telly that I like to put, on certain layers and things like that. So
yeah,
Jeremy's a lefty, so pretty much it's whatever's available.
Oh man, sorry, dude.
Yeah, it sucks, bro.
Yeah, I'm on a group on Facebook, Roach Class. So shout out to Roach Class on Facebook. Get you pull. It's Dimebag fan page, and dudes lefties on there like, oh, can you get a lefty ML? I'm like, oh, they're impossible to find. I feel for you, man. Our Rin from the channel is a lefty, so that's why he never got into guitar. Never got into it just because left-handed guitars was so much more expensive,
And pretty much you want a diesel one, you're going to order a custom one. So that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Or have someone make one for you.
I do know someone who plays upside down and kills it.
I was just going to say, I think we're talking about the same guy. He plays upside down and backwards. It's so weird.
And he kills it.
He sounds fantastic. He's an awesome guitar player.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we might be playing Man-Tooths here pretty soon if he can make me a V. And I think I don't know what Jeremy, what would you have him make? Style buddy?
I don't know.
He wants a fucking V too. They want Gibson style guitars.
That's what I would order from you. Another Explorer.
I'm doing these more like hardtail Fender-esque, but like full, like all walnut, big beefy fuckers.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome.
So it's a little different. I mean, I typically like Gibson style guitars, but I'm trying to do this other thing,
Mm-hmm.
They keep bothering me for flying Vs, which is a whole other thing.
I mean, every guitarist needs a fucking flying V. I mean, you get your V and then you get whatever else.
Right.
Now I got to
use a lot of walnut. I think break your back.
Big boy, I can handle it.
Well, I use a Les Paul. That's my main guitar. But I do like, I have this, I've talked about it before on the channel, but I have a Mexican Strat that was like a late 80s, mid 80s Mexi, and they're heavy and it sounds awesome. It holds up to an American custom now. And I got really lucky. Oh. I found it in a pawn shop for like $100 and it was in mint condition. They had no idea what it was. They just saw it was made in Mexico and figured it was, it wasn't American. So I was like, luckily that was before eBay and all that were really hit off. And then everybody knew exactly what everything was worth, and it kind of sucked for bargain gear hunters like me, but it is what it is. But it'd be cool. Like I always wanted like a big walnut, something heavy wood, all neck through Strat, double humbuckers, real bright. I think that would be killer, man. Put a 5-way with the split coils on there. Oh, that'd be great.
Brian actually plays what is that? An R2, a Gibson R2 style.
Yeah, R2. It's based off the RD, the kind of classic RD shape, Gibson RD shape.
Yeah, it's swamp ash, so it has a little bit brighter tone, but it weighs nothing, Brian?
It's like holding a box of Kleenex. I mean, literally, it's the lightest thing. And I go from a 2014 Les Paul Classic, which is really heavy.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy's is mahogany, his Dunable's mahogany. So just the comparison between the two, one just feels like nothing. So it's been great. It's been great on the back, but I throw the Les Paul back on occasion and it feels like I'm lugging like a chassis to an old vehicle. compared to that swamp ash, it just weighs nothing. I think it's got like a flame maple top adding to the weight, and it's still, which isn't much, but it still weighs nothing.
It's strange because it's such a big guitar. It looks like it's super heavy, and it's not. But Jeremy's guitar is heavy as hell.
Yeah, well, yours mahogany, right? You said.
Yeah, solid mahogany.
Yeah, that's what my Paul is. It's solid mahogany. It's something about those Gibson necks though and stuff. Like I'll deal with the weight, and I just love the feel of those. And what I do, it's like I think Zach Wild does it too. I take the finish off the back of the neck and sand it off, and so it feels like the bottom of a baseball bat, But it's extra work. You got to keep it oiled and stuff like that. But man, there's nothing like a Gibson neck like that. Tell you, Justin, I'm gonna commission you in a year to make me a Strat style with a Gibson neck. Then
could totally do that.
That would be fantastic. Out of mahogany.
Hell yeah, totally.
So yeah, well,
actually,
go ahead.
Actually, Justin's bass rig is kind of out of the ordinary because he uses what's that amp that you use, Justin?
I use a 80s Trainer monoblock, which is like
wow.
Yeah, it's a monoblock. It can be used for guitar or bass. It's super loud. It's a solid state amp but it sounds killer. Steve Albini and Big Black, like both of them used to use it for guitar and bass in that band. And it's just like a crazy Canadian built thing. And like if you read the brochure for it, it's like made out of some sort of like aircraft aluminum, and you're supposed to be able to drop it like 2 stories and without affecting it. And it's just kind of the crazy Canadian amp, but it's a beast. I put it on like 3, and it's as loud as possible.
An indestructible amp. It's perfect for bass players.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I just front load it with a lot of pedals and shit. I'm pretty much kind of grinding distorted at all times.
So what's your chain like? Do you use like a Sans amp or like a subtle kind of? Or
well, I go through a dark glass vintage deluxe, and then from there I go to a like a bass graphic EQ.
Okay.
And then from there I do go to a Sans. The last thing I hit is a Sans amp just to kind of round it a bit, and before I hit the Trainer.
Dude, that Sans amp on a bass, just exactly what you said, rounds everything out. I think that's like something that always needs to be on a bass, whether you're using 10% of it or 50 or 60% of it or whatever, but it fills out a bass tone so well, especially live.
Oh,
yeah. It just kind of makes the bottom end more solid. And I have like a very mid-rangey bass tone, so that thing just kind of solidifies the bottom end a little bit before it hits the preamp in the Trainer, which is just like pure clean volume for the most part.
Mm-hmm. That's super important to have in recording.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I really like it.
So what's Jeremy and Brian, what's your effects like in front of everything? Or do you want to not give away trade secrets?
No, honestly, I abuse a, I don't even remember the brand now. It's
MXR Carbon Copies 1.
Carbon Copy. What's the
TC Electronics flashback.
TC Electronics. Yeah, the flashback. I have a single switch flashback that's got an expression in it, so you can hold it and it'll degrade and kind of add stack delays and echoes on something, so you make some weird sounds. I pretty much abuse one of those most of the time. Otherwise, it's octaves, MXR octaves on occasion, MXR delays as well. I'm a little bit of a freak with delays, and just finding ways to kind of just fill out, especially when we were just one guitar. I was trying to find ways to either like harmonize with myself or hold delays long enough that I could kind of harmonize over them and things. Mm-hmm. And then I use the hell out of a ditto, TC Electronic ditto. And so because we're on that meter, always I can ditto in one harmony on something and then stomp out and then harmonize with it. And then we've got a 3-part guitar leads, Brian May type stuff going on live with just 2 of us, because I've got one of me just repeating itself under us. So
yeah.
that's probably my crutches are big delays and ditto for just repeating a sample for, ad nauseum.
Well, it helps fill things out, like we were talking about, filling that sound out.
Oh yeah, totally.
And Jeremy, you're laughing. You're pretty basic in your setup, I'd imagine.
No.
Oh no, quite the opposite. Like, well, let me.
Me and Brian had fun one day. We got together, like, let's do some woodworking, and we made our own custom gigantic pedal boards. So everybody asked us about our pedal boards at shows. So we just kind of did a weekend of just hanging out, smoking cigars, and building stuff. I use a lot of delays. I think I'm running some more TC Electronic stuff. I use a Yeti a lot. One of those, I don't know who made the Yeti. Is a big fuzz pedal that I use quite a bit. Phase.
I think it's the same. Isn't that the same company that makes the Big Muff?
No, Big Muff was Electronic Harmonics. Yeti was a custom shop. Some of the T.
Dude, I can see it.
Yeah,
I can see it in my head. But
yeah, Brian uses a Black Sheep, I think, from the same company.
That is Black Arts Toneworks. They just make fuzz pedals. I don't. Usually they are so out of control that if I'm trying to lay back on volume or something, I slap that fuzz on, and then it's just out of control. So I find it hard to manage a fuzz pedal, but on occasion they work. Jeremy's much more comfortable with them than I am, for sure.
And I use a lot of what's that pedal? The Pod? Is it a Pod? What the hell is the name of that thing? The
Pod?
Harmony thing. Is it a Pod?
Yeah.
Pog. Yeah.
Pog. Yeah. There's a lot of Pogs, a lot of different layers and stuff. So it's all about layering for us.
Yeah. I think one big thing is there's always some sort of kind of crescendo we're heading towards, right? Like, and I think that's where the layers come into place. At least with us, we want to create cool riffs that are just kind of, something that's an awesome riff, but then also find a way to kind of sustain that, and then find ways to build it to make it interesting. Because there's stuff that we could play for a minute straight, and then it's going to get boring after about 10-15 seconds. And so we're always looking for ways to kind of.
Then you would be in that Doom category. For 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yes.
We get bored.
My influences come from the 70s or early 70s, late 60s with a lot of prog stuff, like especially European or British stuff like Kaipa or Genesis, Gentle Giant and stuff like that. Just very kind of noodly, super smart, old classic rock that's typically a little bit too intense for radio, but I really like the kind of journeys those guys go on. And so I've always, I think kind of by accident, always kind of let that kind of emulate with our stuff. And that's why we're not just a straight up like riff band. I mean, I think it's just, we just get too bored with it too quick. And then I've just gotten so comfortable with that style of music as kind of my everyday go-to that it kind of needles its way in all the time. And then it goes from something that's way more crowbar on the spectrum, and then turns it into something more like, something a little more Genesis-y by nature, which is good. There's not a lot of guys doing that. There's prog metal out today, but it's typically pretty like intense with time signatures, and they're trying to do stuff that's really noodly and really technical. And we're not really technical. We're more kind of maybe orchestral in the way we want to try to kind of compose things and make sure that it feels like it's got its own point of view, and it's not super noodly or intense in terms of like technicality.
Yeah, and I think you guys have hit that, and talking about that, creating these sounds and dynamics in your stuff. Greg, you do a great job of letting this stuff play through and breathe out. When you're thinking about drums on a song, you just like kind of go with it, or are you thinking about, okay, we got a bunch of shit going on, maybe I should tone it down here, and then I could ramp it up a little bit here, or how naturally does the drums come to you with these dynamics that these guys are throwing at you?
Well, a lot of it starts off with when Brian or Jeremy or somebody writes writes a part, I kind of take a look at it, and they've got an idea of what a drum, what they kind of want, where the direction they want the drums to go with. So I kind of look at that and take my own interpretation from it from there, and then add my own embellishments. And, like we're trying to play more with dynamics here lately than anything else. And that's kind of, it's just feeling what they're doing and trying to make things fit where they belong, put the piece, make it sound right for the part rather than trying to do something that's keeping up with what they're doing or something like that. It's laying the groundwork for what's going on above it.
Yeah, and I hear that in you're playing, you're everything laid out very well in the drums, I thought, and it's not overdoing any one fill or anything. It's not like I kind of get on Mastodon a little bit about that. It's like sometimes the drums are a little too crazy. Like, come on, man, stick with that groove a little bit. It's pretty badass. But yeah, that was one of the things I thought the drums were laid out really well, and you keep there's like an intensity behind them too, that even in the lower parts you can just feel that you're fucking into it. You're into the drums, man, and it comes through on the recording.
He's pretty hard. He's a pretty hard player. He's fun to watch live for sure.
Those things were meant to be hit. Somebody told me that when I first started playing. I was like, they're like, drums are meant to be hit, and I took that to heart, and I beat it like it owes me money. So,
dude, and from an engineering standpoint, that is like music to our ears because it is so easy to record a drummer who hits the drums. Like, I get on some guys like, checking stuff because you always want to do the 8 hits on everything to kind of get your levels or whatever you're doing when you're mixing. And it's like bing, 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 like, dude, hit your drums, hit them. They're drums. Oh, okay. Boom, boom, boom. And then they go to record and it's like bing, bing, bing. Like, fuck,
That reminds me, it's nice to have Justin in the band because we get a lot of stories and grievances thrown our way behind the scenes about stuff he encountered.
So before you get in there, Justin ain't gonna put up with this shit.
A little bit of extra insight. Don't do this. Check it. Pisses him off.
It's hilarious. Some of the texts that I've gotten from him in the middle of work are outstanding, and just stuff I didn't realize that happens on a regular basis. But
yeah, I think one of my favorite things about the drums is Brian will come up with something in a weird time signature where the riff kind of starts here, but it really starts somewhere else, and then watching Brian try to explain it to Greg, and Greg gets so goddamn mad that he breaks cymbals because he's trying to play this weird ass beat is probably one of the greatest things about this band is watching Greg get so mad that the veins in that bald head start poking out. Great.
I've been working on my Zen lately. It's not working as well as I thought, but I've been working on
it. Goes into Kurt Weinstein Hulk mode.
I have broken a resonant snare head before, so I mean,
snare head's like $18. It's worth the aggression reliever.
Yeah.
That was at a show you busted the resonant snare head.
Yep.
I mean, couldn't figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It's like, why does it sound like shit?
Yeah, it's just bong all of a sudden.
No, you hit it and it literally, it just went blah.
Yeah.
What is going on? And then I finally looked through the dry, I had a clear snare head on for whatever reason, and I looked through it and saw it was cracked. Luckily one of the other drummers we were playing with let me borrow his snare. I was thankful for that, but I'd never had that happen before.
As he hands it to you, don't break this, dude.
Right.
So I encourage everybody to check this album out. That's the point of this. This album is killer. It really made it would have made my top list of last year if I did those lists, but I thought this was a better way to get bands like you guys out and get it known, because this is good music, and keep it going through this whole lockdown thing, which is important. You guys doing much, like, are you pushing like social media stuff and whatnot? I don't get on it a whole hell of a lot. I probably should.
But no.
That all kind of
We-
So it's a good
We
thing I'm
should.
doing this then.
Yeah,
we should.
We should hire somebody to do our social media because none of us. Well, Justin does a pretty decent job with what he's working on, but the rest of us just don't care. I guess I don't know. If there's something
So
about
we should, but we just it's hard to.
Yeah.
Some bands are great at it, some aren't. The good thing is, speaking of social media, the one thing that's coming out on 420 is that we have the company's putting out a Motorhead tribute record.
Yeah, I saw that.
With all the bands from the label and a few off the label as well. And Justin had a hand in all of that, so all of it sounds stellar. But it's heavy and it's diverse, and it's, if you like Motorhead and you like any of the bands on the company, I mean, it's just awesome. So he's been promoting that lately. So we're getting a little bit of attention just by standing close to him on that. So at least we're getting some views and things, but typically we're terrible at it. But that record is gonna kill. I've heard it all, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I went on and I was looking for the test press because there was a limited run of the test pressed vinyl.
Oh yeah.
Out. And I was like, "Oh, sold out." So I'm gonna get the other one ordered here soon. But
Awesome.
I found a Carcass Heartwork. They re-released it in Europe. It was only 200 of them, so it's the original album, and then on the next vinyl, it's all of the demo reels, all the demo recordings from the album. And
wow.
Yeah, they only released it in Europe, so I had to get on Nuclear Blast in Germany and order it from Germany. But I saw that and I was immediately ordered that. I was like, man, if I order 2 records in the same day, my wife is gonna kill me. It's
what kind of shipping? What kind of shipping you pay for that?
$30.
Oh yeah,
It cost more than the record.
Mhm.
But
yeah.
dude, for that, I would pay $100 or I'd pay $200 for something like that.
Sure.
Just to hear those recordings for the first time, especially being as big a Carcass fan as I am.
we had to stop doing international shipping of our vinyl because it was getting too expensive, and too much stuff was getting lost, and it was costing us way too much. I mean, we were losing money doing international sales. So
yeah, one of the biggest heart drops I can get is when I get an email from someone in Greece or someone that's like, I ordered this 3 months ago and I've been totally gracious and nice and given it time, but I still haven't received it. Even a little bit mad. I get so upset because that's the last thing I want to make anyone feel. And I appreciate so much when they're willing to spend money on our music and pay the extra money to have it shipped. It's super frustrating that we really can't depend on, at least, I mean, I don't know who we're using typically to ship it out, but it's just, it's a common occurrence. I've got a guy that ordered a patch a year ago that just emailed us again saying, hey, I still don't have that patch.
Wow.
and
He's in Germany or something. So
it's Scotland.
Yeah.
That's great. You guys
really? Yeah.
You guys are getting exposure over there. I mean, that would be a good market for you guys anyway. It seems like this type of music is going very well over there.
Yeah, we seem to find a distributor out there, I think. That's
the one thing about Europe and the UK and stuff. From all I've had friends who toured over there in bigger acts over the years, and they always say that the lineups at the shows over there are so diverse and different, versus here. You put lack of a better example, a pop punk band with a hard rock band, and then the two crowds are like oil and water, right? But over there you could have Dio and Clutch playing, and then have Tangerine open, and it would be totally, everyone would love the diversity of it. And so it does seem like that there's kind of a bit more of a diversity in tastes over there, and you can get a lot more diverse shows and stuff too. We'd love to go there one day if the world opens up, if we're allowed.
Yeah, hopefully soon. They just talked about you're going to have pretty much like an app that you're going to have your stuff on there, and you go to a show and you scan it and it'll tell you, you're good to go. You had your vaccine or you're not, and fuck you, get out. Unfortunately, that's going to be where it's going to go. I think that a lot of places are going to, everyone besides Texas probably. So, but unfortunately that'll be where that goes. But for now, you can jam this album.
Are you up in Pennsylvania? Yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was gonna say, are you up in Pennsylvania?
I'm in Ohio. So Ohio, Northwest Ohio, like Michigan, Ohio
okay.
border, somewhere in there. But I mean, Pennsylvania's close enough. Yep.
Gotcha.
So I was actually thinking about going over to Kansas City. I have a friend who's a doctor over there, and me and my wife were just going to take a road trip and go down to the Ozarks and stuff like that. And we were thinking about just making the trip over, but we ended up not, and going to, where the hell did we go? I think we went to St. Louis for whatever reason, then realized it kind of sucks. So we left and came back home. So
sorry, St. Louis, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I'm biased. We're biased, but St. Louis.
You can't hold us responsible for what goes on that side.
Yeah, I made the wrong decision. But honestly, it's not that far. I mean, it really isn't that far from me. So maybe when the world opens up, I'll come out that way. But Brian, you take care of the vinyl orders, because I'm going to be getting a hold of you here and see what you guys got.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, again, check Orphans of Doom right now. Put it on your list. Go buy the records. You can check them out on Bandcamp. Brian Seday is just brianseday.com, right?
Yeah, our Bandcamp. Yeah, my website. Just my
I was gonna plug your art, man.
Oh,
brianseday.com for artwork. It's fantastic, very high contrast, good stuff, and that may be something in the future that maybe I'll commission you to work on the new Thralls opening.
Oh, dude, I'd love that.
Because that's kind of like the same style of artwork that I got in mind for what I want to do for the next iteration of the opening and stuff. You know, next year probably we'll work on that. But I'll definitely get a hold of you for that.
Let's do it.
But everyone, thank you guys so much for joining and being the first full band interview I've had. This is nice. Juggle and act a little bit. But I really appreciate it. And to all the Thrallers, hit subscribe, hit like, all that stuff. And check us out on Patreon too. Patreon Thralls of Metal. And until next time, Thrallers, this is Miller. See ya. All right. Hopefully that, minus that one little hiccup there, of course, went okay. I appreciate everybody's understanding about all these technical issues. I'm going to let this run through tomorrow, and then Friday we'll be back with back to normal, video a day. We're doing some reviews. I'll drag some of the other guys out of their holes, and we'll get this going. But man, I can't thank you guys enough for supporting us, supporting the channel, getting us over 10K. That's awesome. And like I said, I've been working my mojo behind the scenes, man, taking the Thralls brand, trying to get it out there. We got some big announcements coming in the next couple weeks, and we will be right here to show you and tell you what that is. So hit the like, subscribe, notifications, all that if you want to hear about this next step of Thralls of Metal. And until next time.